You want the unvarnished reality, don't you? The gritty, unpolished truth. Not the polished garbage they spoon-feed you. Not the comforting stories draped in delicate deception. No, I mean the harsh, unadulterated, blood-soaked truth. The kind that sears your spirit when it hits. The kind that churns your gut. The kind that either shatters you or forges you into something unbreakable. People, they love their charades. They strut around, pretending to be tough, invincible, enlightened. But tune them out. Just tune them out and observe what unfolds. Notice how their voices falter, how their grins flicker, how their arrogance seeps through the fractures. Sure, they can perform all they like, but silence, your silence, is a reflection, and frail people can't bear what stares back at them. That's the opening move in this game, kid. You don't flinch. You don't feed their egos. Let them babble, let them hurl their barbs. Just stand there, but disregard them. Because the more you disregard, the more they bear their vulnerabilities. They start to stumble. Their words grow frantic. Their taunts lose their edge. They hunger for a response. They thirst for affirmation. And when you withhold it, that's when the facade crumbles. Ever notice how the brashest ones, the ones who act untouchable, are the most fragile? It's almost comical. They yap endlessly. But the instant you stop engaging, the moment you refuse to play their petty games, they come undone. Weak people can't endure silence. It swallows them whole. See, people assume power lies in speech, in force, in intimidation. But true power, it's in understanding. It's in staying calm while chaos erupts around you. It's in silence. You tune them out, and suddenly, they start laying bare their flaws. They expose their real selves. That frantic, pitiful craving for notice. The dread of being unseen. And once you spot that, once you see them for the hollow shells they are, you've got them. But it's not just foes. Oh no. Friends, family, lovers. They're all cut from the same cloth. Everyone reveals their essence when you stop giving them what they expect. The ones who truly matter stick around. The rest start to fracture, bit by bit, until all that remains is the reality they fought to conceal. Ever watch someone collapse just because you stopped giving a damn? It's mesmerizing. It's art. You were their spark, their lifeline. And the second you pulled away, they disintegrated. And you didn't even have to move a muscle. That's the key, kid. People are fragile, and the more you tune them out, the more they show just how fragile they are. You don't need to clash. You don't need to justify yourself. Just observe. See how their swagger turns to hesitation. See how their ego morphs into panic. See how every jab, every spiteful act, every betrayal they aimed at you boomerangs back to torment them. Because here's the deal with those who wound you. They expect you to yell. They expect you to crack. They want your reaction. It fuels their sense of dominance. But when you don't, when you just sit there, grinning, that's when they unravel. That's when they glimpse the beast they tried to forge in you, reflected in themselves. And oh, they'll rue it. Maybe not now, maybe not soon, but one day, when they're isolated, when the quiet deafens them, when remorse slinks in like a patient, ruthless venom, they'll recall you. They'll replay every shove, every sneer, every moment they thought they had the upper hand. And it'll devour them. People think karma's some ethereal judge, some grand equalizer, but it's not. Karma's just the burden of their deeds catching up. And believe me, it always does. So save your words. Save your effort. Just lean back, watch, and savor the spectacle. Because the more you disregard them, the more they expose their frailties. And that's your strength. They think they've got you pegged. They think they know your moves, your desires, your triggers. They dissect you like a specimen, waiting for the perfect chance to jab, to provoke, to push. And the moment you bite, the instant you show a flicker of feeling, they've won. It's that straightforward. This isn't about might. It's not about smarts. It's about restraint. And most folks, they surrender it without a second thought. Someone mocks them, they snap back. Someone slights them, they lose their temper. Someone ignores them, they grovel for notice, marionettes jerked by strings they didn't even craft. But you're going to rewrite the script. You're going to ditch their rules. And that begins with silence. That begins with distance. That begins with staring them down and saying, "You're not worth my time." Because the reality is, the ones clawing to drag you down, they're already beneath you. They wouldn't claw so hard if they weren't. Think it over. When's the last time someone truly secure wasted breath on a nobody? When's the last time someone with their act together bothered slinging mud? They don't. Because real strength doesn't need a spotlight. Only the brittle do. That's why the more you tune them out, the more they fray. They need your response to feel alive. They need you to nod at their words, their digs, their existence. Without it, they're zilch. Just husks clattering in their own despair. And when you refuse to bite, when you decline to dance to their rhythm, they panic. They start spilling their doubts, their terrors, their soft spots. They thought they held the reins. They thought they could toy with you, bait you, ruin you, but instead, they're the ones coming apart. And that's the twist, kid. That's the slight. You don't wrestle them. You don't debate. You don't waste an ounce of your fire on them. You just sit there and watch. Watch their bravado turn to desperation. Watch their pride start to splinter. Watch every slight, every strike, every little ploy they ran twist back on them. It's like a card tower toppling in slow motion. And the kicker? You didn't even have to nudge it. But don't mistake this for weakness. This isn't about letting them stomp all over you. No way. This is about picking your fights with precision. Ever seen a tiger waste its strength swatting gnats? Nope. Because a tiger knows its worth. It doesn't need to flex, and neither do you. That's what they can't grasp. That's what unnerves them. Because weaklings, they live for friction. They crave it. It's the only thing that keeps their pulse going. But you don't need their nod. You don't need to prove your value. And that spooks them. Because the second they see their grip slipping, the second they realize their words bounce off you, that's when they start to doubt. That's when they start picking apart their own foundation. And oh, it stings them more than you'll ever know. The quiet, the apathy, the refusal to bite, it gnaws at them. Because folks like that feed on attention. They feed on chaos. Strip that away, and what's left? Just a frightened, insecure kid pitching a fit, hoping someone, anyone, will care enough to bite back. But you won't. Because you're sharper than that. You're tougher than that. And that's your victory. Not with shouts, not with fists, but with icy, deliberate silence. Let them ramble. Let them roar. Let them swing their feeble little blows. Because in the end, you're beyond their reach. And the more you tune them out, the more they bear their frailties every single time. And here's the gem they don't share, the secret they pray you never crack. When you hone the craft of silence, when you perfect the art of detachment, you stop being their prey. You stop being their toy, their pawn, their bullseye. Because honestly, most people aren't after a brawl. They're after a spark. They want to know they rattled you. They want to see you twitch, hear you snap, watch you bleed. Because that's the only thing that props up their existence. That's the only thing that makes them feel they count. But when you deny them that, when you sit there, unmoved, unreadable, a stone wall of nothing, oh, it drives them wild. It chews them up like acid on steel, steady and merciless, eating through every scrap of confidence they clung to. They start second-guessing themselves. They start wondering about their own grit, their own worth. Why isn't he biting? Why doesn't he care? Why isn't he folding like he's meant to? And that's when the dread creeps in. That's when the chaos takes hold. Because suddenly they feel small. They feel naked. They feel helpless. See, people talk tough, but most are spineless, cowards cloaked in bluster and cheap drama, praying no one clocks how vacant they are. And when they run into someone who doesn't bend, who doesn't grovel, who doesn't blink, they shatter. Because now they're staring into a mirror, forced to face the reality they've dodged forever. They're nothing without your spark. They've got no real muscle, no real spine, no real sway. They never held the leash. You did. And that's the hustle, kid. That's how you triumph. Not by slugging it out, not by out-shouting them, but by standing firm while they torch themselves. Ever seen someone implode live? It's gripping. The longer you hold your tongue, the more they flail, the more they spill, the more they unravel. And all you've got to do is zilch. Just watch. Just wait. Because the more you tune them out, the more they bear their frailties. It's a universal rule. As certain as the sun rising. You cut off their oxygen and they burn out. But here's the kicker. See, people don't just show their soft spots when you ignore them. They show their souls. Because when someone's grasping, when they're losing their grip, that's when the mask slips. That's when the real them peeks out. And trust me, kid, most folks, you don't want to see what's lurking beneath. It's messy. It's sad. It's chilling. The fake laughs, the warm hugs, the honeyed words, it's all a show. But yank away the crowd, yank away the praise, yank away the spotlight. And what's left? Just another drifting wretch scratching at the walls of their own void. And that's when the tide turns. That's when they start chasing you. Because now you're the enigma. Now you're the riddle they can't crack. And people despise what they can't fathom. They despise what they can't tame. So they'll slink back, trying to spark a reaction, trying to make you feel anything. They'll poke you. They'll prod you. They'll pull every trick to yank you back into their petty little play. But you won't budge. You'll stay mute, removed. And the harder they push, the weaker they look. And then comes the sweetest bit. Regret. Oh, it always arrives. Maybe not now, maybe not soon, but one day when they're alone. When there's no one left to dazzle, no one left to sway, no one left to harm. They'll think of you. They'll relive every shove, every attempt to crush you, every time they thought they'd cracked you. And it'll dawn on them. They lost. Not because you struck back. Not because you settled the score, but because you didn't have to. Because while they were obsessed with dragging you down, you were soaring. Untouched. Unfazed. Unassailable. That's what real grit looks like. Not hollering, not scrapping, just being. Standing in a state of total, unshakable disregard while the frail buckle under their own load. And the best part? You never have to twitch a finger. Because the more you tune them out, the more they bear their frailties. Every time. Without exception. And once you get that, once you own it, once you live it, you'll never lose again. And the poetry of it, the twist, they'll never even clock what hit them. They'll sit there, broken, drained, puzzling over where it all derailed. Never once suspecting they did it to themselves. That their own hubris, their own thirst for dominance, their own brittle pride was the blade that cut them down. See, that's the thing about the weak. They don't think they're weak. They convince themselves they're the tough ones, the bosses, the rule makers. But real grit doesn't need applause. Real grit doesn't fish for notice. Real grit doesn't stir up fights just to feel big. Only the shaky do that. Only the ones terrified of their own smallness cling to the mirage of mastery. And once you see that, once you truly get it, the world shifts. You start spotting how frantic people are, how scared they are of being overlooked, how much they need a nod just to feel real. And that's when you realize you've got them. Not with might, not with force, but with the simplest, most effortless thing there is. Silence. Just let them yap. Let them howl. Let them throw their childish fits. Because in the end, it's all just static. Hollow, pointless static. And the moment you stop tuning in, the moment you stop giving a damn, that's the moment they fade away. Because that's the real terror, isn't it? Being erased, being irrelevant, being nobody. That's what gnaws at them in the dark. That's why they claw so hard to stay on your radar. Why they push and poke and prod, hoping, begging you'll toss them one more crumb of notice to keep them going. Going. Because without it, they're sinking, plunging into the pit of their own nothingness. And nothing scares them more than knowing you don't even spare them a thought anymore. That they poured all that time, all that venom, all that sweat into cracking you. And in the end, they were the only ones who broke. And that's the laugh, isn't it? The punchline they never see coming. That in their rabid quest to ruin you, they lost it all. Because control, it was never theirs to hold. It was always yours. They just didn't catch it. And by the time they do, it's done. You've moved on. You've outgrown them. And they're left there, stuck in their own wreckage, shouting at shadows that don't even hear them anymore. Because that's what you become when you nail this. A phantom. Unreachable, unyielding. A presence no insult, no treachery, no cheap trick can touch. You don't wage wars anymore. You don't waste breath on folks who don't rate it. You just are. Above them, past them, watching as they bury themselves, powerless to stop it, powerless to claw back from the brink they leapt off. And that's the ultimate payback, isn't it? Not settling.